And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. It is Friday night, and in lieu of any rugby or anything like that, we will have Friday Rugby pretty much every week, starting next week until I think about September, October. So this will actually probably be the last Friday night news show we'll do for a while. Just because we'll usually be live for a watch along, which is actually quite exciting. The Curry Cup starts next week, Friday. So we will be live for that. We will not be live tomorrow, unfortunately, for the Bulls versus the Sharks game. No Stormers versus Lions game tomorrow. Let's get it off the bat. We'll talk about it a little bit, but that has been cancelled. We will, however, have a review up tomorrow. Nakano Chongweni will be joining us and be doing a review of the Bulls versus the Sharks game. So if you can't watch it, then we will have a review up for you to go and check up. We will not be live tomorrow, unfortunately. But yeah, so in terms of what we're going to be covering in the next sort of 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how we go, we will be looking at the Lions versus the Stormers being cancelled and some reasons around that. We're going to be looking at the Bulls versus the Sharks, having a bit of a look ahead, see what we can expect tomorrow. We're going to be talking about Sean Everett signing a new deal, Bongi Manambi and the Stormers situation. We're going to get an update about that, an update about Edward van der Merwe and his potential move to the Lions. We're going to be talking about some of the signings the Sharks have made. They made quite a few signings. We're talking about the Cheetahs and the signings that they've been making. We're going to be talking about that Warwick Galant's return from injury. We're going to be looking at the England squad announcement. And then just a little bit sort of looking in towards the Curry Cup and a little bit of what the fixtures are and what can we kind of sort of start to expect. So yeah, before we go any further, smash that like button right now. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Let's jump in the comments. Let me know how your week was. What are you looking forward to this weekend? What rugby are you going to be watching? Is your team playing? Was your team cancelled? Where are you at? What do you think was going to happen in the Rainbow Cup final next week? Let's get into the comments. Let's get chatting and let's get going. For the football fans, the Euro starts tonight, so I suppose it's going to be quite nice. And for the cricket fans, we've currently got cricket on at the moment. So it's just plenty of sport at the moment. But we're going to start with the Lions versus the Stormers game, which is unfortunately cancelled due to an outbreak within the Lions camp. Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. So the announcement came today that they called the game off as a result of a string of positive tests within the Lions camp. And, fair enough, so whatever. So basically, obviously, they do a lot of testing and stuff like that. In the last batch test, a lot of positive cases came up with the Lions squad, and therefore they've decided to cancel the match. As a result, the Stormers will be given a 4-point victory, which means I think they're going to finish on about 12 points. I think more than about 17 points. Yeah, they're going to finish with 17 points. So they'll finish at least, or they're going to finish third, maybe second at the moment. So at the moment they're sitting in second. If the Sharks win tomorrow, then they'll push the Stormers down to third. But what was very strange, and we spoke a little bit about, we did a video earlier about when it was first announced, was the fact that they kept mentioning they mentioned the British and Irish Lions as a reason to it being cancelled. Which doesn't really make sense to me. The Lions are scheduled to play the British and Irish Lions on the 3rd of July. It is the 11th of June. So I'm not quite sure why, when they're saying that it was taken in that consideration, when you consider that the Lions, I think, are going to play at least 2 or 3 Curry Cup games ahead of that Lions match. I don't understand why this has got anything to do with the price of cheese, and certainly anything to do with this Lions tour. It doesn't really make sense to me. But in terms of what we were missing out on the game, I think, it's frustrating because I think it's a game that would have been quite good, actually. It's a bit of a wooden spoon. You're not gonna, no team is gonna get anything out of this game, or was gonna get anything out of this game. But it's always nice to see sometimes in these games when you don't have much to play for, maybe competition-wise, or for a trophy or anything like that. A lot of it can come down to sort of individual performance, and you can go out there and try and impress and try and sort of say, "Look at me," whatever. And ahead of the Curry Cup, the Stormers would have had to have rested a couple of key players in like their Springbok front row. Peter Toy's already had a week off, so he would have been rested. So it would have been an interesting chance to have seen a couple of the Stormers players get an opportunity. Equally, I think the Lions would have had to have rested Wandisile Simelane. So, that would have been opening up a position there. And I think Jordan Hendricks, the Lions were going to be without Jordan Hendricks, Simelane, Andre Warner, as well as Rainer Northnakel and Vincent Tusuka. So the Lions are going to be without 5 players, which means that the Lions are going to be quite shuffled. So I was quite excited to sort of see, the fringe players going to go. We saw that Toyota Invitational, how, some of these fringe players got together, put together a side, and they managed to beat the Cheetahs, who beat the Greeks today in a warm-up match. So I was quite excited to see that kind of sort of game, and be able to see these fringe players get an opportunity to go out there and make a statement, and sort of just put yourself out there and say, I can do a job. Put me in the Currie Cup side. So that's, I suppose, what we're going to be missing this weekend. There's no opportunity for those players to go and do that. In terms of the competition, it means virtually nothing because neither of these sides could have qualified for the Rainbow Cup final, which will be next week, Saturday. It will be either the Bulls or the Sharks up against Benetton. So Benetton are through to that final because there was a COVID outbreak within the Osprey side. They couldn't field aside. As a result, Benetton were given a victory, given 4 points, and they're going to finish top of the log. As a result, they would have actually played tonight. They would have had to have won tonight to have ensured their progress, but obviously they're now through because of a little bit of a technicality, which is always very frustrating, but there's really no right or wrong answer when it comes to sort of the punishments or what you do with points when it comes to these COVID cases, because there's just no fair argument, is there? I mean, it's difficult to punish the team who's got COVID cases because it's not necessarily their fault. They can go through all the precautions and it can still happen. Equally, it's difficult to punish a side which doesn't have any COVID cases, can put together a decent side. They can field the side, and there's no issue there. So it comes with what's fair and what's not fair. And so I don't think there's any sort of major. I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer with regards to how you allocate points. At the moment, it's a 4-point victory if your team can't. What's a 4-point loss if you can't field a side. A game that will be going ahead is the Bulls versus the Sharks. Sharks having to make a couple of late changes as well in their lineup. So before we look at them, let's have a look at this Bulls side because it's quite a change Bulls side. If you want to look at more about this and stuff like that, you can go check out our preview as well. That was up earlier today. But if we're looking at this Bulls side, so the big news is that Marcel Coetzee will be operating at 8-man tomorrow, as well as captain. And for many people, they think it's probably an audition for the Springbok number 8 position. In the absence of Dwayne Vermeulen. However, Jake White came out today and said that whilst he says he doubts that Dwayne Vermeulen will be fully fit for that first test, he reckons there's a very, very good chance that Dwayne Vermeulen will be able to feature in the second and third test, which is a huge boost for the Boks. And I personally think that the Springboks are kind of on the same sort of wavelength, which is why right now they have not called up a replacement for Dwayne Vermeulen. So Marcel Coetzee gets to go out tomorrow and make another big statement and say, listen, if Dwayne's going to be a doubt, if anyone's going to be a doubt, put me in, coach. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to play. I can come straight in. You can cover a lot of that scrum. And I think Marcel Coetzee was quite hard done by being left out of the scrum, out of the squad altogether. And I think that a big performance tomorrow, if they win tomorrow, and a big performance next week, and all of a sudden they so all of a sudden I think he has to be back onto the radar. Sean O'Farrell, even Sean saying, I remember when Toulon had a positive case. I think that player was not part of the team playing Leinster in that European quarterfinal. Toulon then threatened to pull them out of the cup next season. It's just so much admin. This whole COVID story. But yeah, playing sport within these conditions is just so difficult. We've got the cases are surging in South Africa. We definitely know there's going to be no fans in the stadium, but now there's big doubts. Are we going to be able to get the British and Irish Lions tour going? Is it going to be? What are going to be the complications there? The sooner we can just get as many players and as many people and many fans vaccinated and we can kind of get this under control, the better, because there's just so many technicalities which are creeping in as a result of COVID and nobody really knows how to navigate it. Because I don't think anybody can know how to navigate it. I don't even really have suggestions. I don't know how you can best navigate such a strange situation. But in terms of this Bulls side, who thankfully don't seem to have too many COVID cases themselves, Marcel Coetzee, number 8. Another big call is Ruan Nokia will start at flank tomorrow. In the latest of we've seen it quite often in South Africa where lots of locks have sometimes moved off to the flank, and we've seen how PZ Toy has developed into a brilliant blindside, literally best in the world. So it's not uncommon to see that move. It's interesting that they decided to go with that as opposed to bringing in Nizam Kar, for example. Arno Botha, I think, is still injured at the moment, so. Yeah, but if you look at that bench for the Bulls, for example, and you've got Nizam Kar and Gio Applon, and Trevor Nukane. You've got 3 Springboks coming off the bench there. Jacques Vermeulen is a class player as well. So it's a very solid Bulls side. Jaco Swanepoel's going to get an opportunity tomorrow next to Walt Steenkamp. I thought he was very good at the beginning of the season when he had that game to play. So it'll be a nice opportunity for him to be able to come out and get some minutes under his belt and show Jake White what he can do. Because I think we're on a key. It's a matter of time before he gets called up to the Springboks. So this will be a nice test of a bit of a depth for the Bulls. But backline-wise, they're going to be exactly the same. Ivan van Zyl, Morne Steyn, Trevino Jacobs, Cornel Hendricks. It's just a very good backline. It's a very good side. The interesting thing is, we're looking at the Shark side now, is that On the bench, and I'll make it a little bit bigger so you can read it because this is horrible, horrible graphic. You passed this? You can barely even read the names. So the Sharks have had quite a few injuries and quite a few issues, which is as a result they've been forced to name Oxenchair and Thomas Toy on the bench. They weren't supposed to play tomorrow. Definitely weren't supposed to play tomorrow. But as a result of all the injuries, they've had to be drafted in. So you're going to have Jacques van Rooyen and Trevor Nyakane coming off the bench for the Bulls, but you will also have Thomas Toy and Oxenchair coming off the bench for the Sharks. So that might even actually nullify that whole sort of second half impact that Jake White keeps doing, a bit of a bomb squad in himself, where he kind of puts on his experienced props in the second half and they do a bit of a demolition job. And it's worked very, very effectively. So that could be an interesting way of counteracting it. We saw how the Stormers had Frans Malherbe on the bench last weekend and came on and kind of slightly nullifies that sort of that major threat that the Bulls use there. But if you're looking at this side, because it has changed since we did the preview, because as you can see, Anthony Fulmer has had to shift wing because Makazole Mapimpi, he's got a stiff calf and he's been ruled out. And unfortunately, I look at the Sharks side and I don't think there's enough in the Sharks side to go and beat the Bulls tomorrow. I mean, if you're looking at that front row, Kutam Kuno has just come back from loan. Kenneth Buffino was solid last weekend, but Kwesi Mana, he's been around the fringes, hasn't got a lot of rugby here in the Rainbow Cup. And then off the bench, off the bench, the front row is very solid. But you've got JJ van der Mesh, Hiron Andrews, Sia Khaleesi, Percy Butler, Temulani Borley. I think it's a good loose trio. I'm actually quite keen to see how they go tomorrow. It's a very, very physical loose trio. As I said, there's no fetches per se, but Temulani Borley is a very formidable ball carrier, very physical player. Percy Butler, he's got lots of skills, nice turn of pace there. We know what Sia Khaleesi brings in the defense. He's immense. So I think that loose trio will be quite interesting to see. I think, it'll be interesting to see if they can balance themselves. I mean, it looks like it's quite a lot of players who are quite similar in that their players are quite direct and quite physical and like sort of contact. They might not have sort of the differences in them in that likes of like a Marco Stard who's a good fetcher, or like James Fenter who's going to be coming off the bench, who's a traditional sort of number 6. But I mean, I think the frustrating thing for me, if you're looking at the side, is Curran Bosch being back on the side, because I thought that Monty Liebach was brilliant last weekend, but unfortunately. They were said to have picked up an injury, but he's been named on the bench. So I don't quite understand that decision. I understand that you want to back Curran Bosch as your number 1. And there's been a lot of talks about Curran Bosch potentially leaving the Sharks. So maybe this is a bit of a, we back him 100%. But I thought Monty Liebach was superb last weekend. And I think in a game when you have to go out and score 4 tries, you've got to play your best attacking players. And Monty Liebach is a much better attacking fly half than Curran Bosch is. Tomorrow is not a game for tactical kicking, going for penalties, using your boot and stuff like that. Tomorrow is a game to keep the ball in hand, go after the Bulls, see if you can score 4 tries, because that's the only way you're gonna be able to beat it. You're not gonna out-muscle the Bulls. So I don't think playing a territory game, trying to sort of go target set pieces, is going to be that effective against a side whose set piece is just so good. I would much rather have seen Monty Liebach let the Bulls kick to you. Between him, Fassi, Fulmink, Lakanya, there will be lots of players there that can unlock defenses. So I would have much preferred to have seen them try and be a little bit braver and say, right, let's just try something different. We're going to try and run the Bulls off their feet. We're going to try and, create something out of nothing. Put a bit of flair on. Keep the ball in hand. But I don't think they're going to do that, given the fact that Curran Bosch has come straight back into the side there. So, yeah, Werner Cox starts on the wing. I thought he was brilliant at outside centre last weekend, and I think that's probably the position we're going to see him a lot in for the Currie Cup, which starts next weekend. He just makes so much sense as a centre, Very good defender of the ball. His work rate's incredible. Doesn't really have the pace for the wing. Doesn't really have the finishing. It's a very different sort of player to a Yao Penkler, Spuren Corsi, Makazole Mapimpi. So I thought he was very good out of centre, and I think that's where we'll see him in the Currie Cup, and I think he's actually going to thrive there. I think we've seen how Ruan Niles made that position himself, managed to bring those 7 skills across quite effectively. Hopefully, Werner Cox can do a similar thing. He's a fantastic player. He's a really nice guy as well. So it'd be really nice to see him succeed. I'm still not quite sure why he's decided not to sort of pursue the whole Olympic Sevens thing, because the Sevens today were having a bit of a hit out in Johannesburg before they go for the Olympics, if the Olympics does go ahead. So a strange decision, I think, for me, for Werner Cox to not go to the Olympics. I can understand Roscoe Speckman. He's been named in the box squad and will face the Lions. That only happens, he's already got an Olympic medal. Where he's facing the British and Irish Lions really is a once-in-a-career opportunity, twice if you're France State or Morning State. So I can understand why Roscoe Speckman's made that decision, but for Werner Cox, I think it's a bit of a strange one, because he would have been massive for that 7 side. But it's good to see Apelele Fassi back on the side. It's good to see Lakanya in the side. Off the bench, Reniel Hugo, James Fenter, Grant Williams, Monty Liebach, Jeremy Ward. I think Grant Williams and Monty Liebach adds some nice spice, But James Venter, I mean, he's very good defensively, not necessarily the biggest of ball carriers. So, yeah, I think that I just don't think they've got enough, to be honest. I think that Bulls side's too big and too good to be undone by the Sharks side, and I think the Bulls will get the job done, and they'll march through to the final. And it makes more sense from a South African point of view that they go over because they're only losing 4 Springbok players. So if we look at this Bulls side, where are we? Next weekend, this exact same Bulls side, save Marco van Staden, Morne Steyn, and Trevor Nyakani, that exact same Bulls side can go. So, you can bring in, if he's fit, Albert Lowe into the side there. You can bring Muller Ace, you can bring Nizam Carr, and then you're bringing in Chris Smith, and you just need to bring in another tight head. If Lizot Koboka is fit, he comes into the side as well. So this Bulls side they can take a very strong side over to Italy, and I think they probably will punish Benetton and potentially get their 3rd trophy in less than a year. So I mean the Bulls' dominance really is getting a little bit silly now, and I'm hoping that when we go to the Pro 16 at the end of the year, they'll be a little bit more competitive, because I think it's just nobody wants to see a side that dominates all the time. You want competitions, you want situations where every side can beat each other, because that just makes it better watching. And at the moment, the Bulls, some teams are pushing them quite far. The Lions obviously beat them, but they just know how to win. They can play badly and win. They can put in average performances and win. They've just got that winning mentality where they don't take losing as an option. They'll always make sure they can pull something out, whether it's defensively, whether it's set piece, whether it's right at the last minute through Ruan Nokia like last weekend. They've got winning as a habit, and they're strong in their ways of winning at the moment. Short of Farrell saying, I say Benetton versus Bulls unless Sharks can do something. I don't think the Sharks will do something, so I'm agreeing with you. I think it will be Benetton versus Bulls. This chair is a disaster. Yeah, so that's how it's looking like tomorrow. I don't think that Sharks side has enough, but I've been wrong before, so you never know. Unfortunately, I won't actually get to watch the match tomorrow. I'm at a bachelor's, so that's why I'm not going to be able to be on the live watch along. That's why I won't be able to do the review, but Lacania will have you sorted for that review tomorrow, so don't you stress. Now, speaking of the Sharks, Sean Everett penned a new deal this week that will run up until 2024, and I'm interested to see what people think about that, because I think that whilst the Sharks have been getting better, and I think Sean Everett's a very nice guy, and I think he's got he's a very nice personality, he says all the right things. Is he the best coach that the Sharks can do? I mean, they've signed Siya Kolisi, they've brought back a whole bunch of players, we're going to go through them now. But Bongi Manami and Siya Kolisi have been the major ones they've signed. Makazulu Mapimpi is back. Apele Lefasi is, they've got 10 players in this current squad going after the Springboks. And that doesn't include the likes of a Jaden Henderson, who I think will become a Springbok. So, is Sean Everett the right person? Is he the right caliber for the Sharks in this new project to be able to take them right to the top? And I'm not saying that because I don't think so. I'm genuinely asking, like, do we think that the Sharks have made it right? Should they not be going for a really big name? Do they not go and say, remember like the Storms wanted to bring Eddie Jones in? Should the Sharks be doing something similar? Should they be going and targeting a top coach somewhere in the world and bringing them to Durban and saying, right, take us up to the top? We've seen how much it can make a difference. I mean, Jake White came into the Bulls. Yes, he signed a lot of players, but he turned them into a side which was struggling to be top 3 in the country, and will potentially make them back-to-back champions in competitions with similar teams. They've been the standout side for South Africa since September, and no one's come anywhere near them. And it's been a combination of really good players, but also really good coaches. I mean, as I said, Jake White's doing a lot of good things. Joey Mongola is doing fantastic things with that Bulls defense. So it's interesting to me that they're backing Sean Everett for that sort of long term, giving him a 3-year deal. It's a long time. 2024 is a long way away. So it's an interesting move. I suppose you got to back it. I mean, he's been doing all right, but tomorrow could be the 3rd time in a row they've missed a trophy in 3 competitions. So if you have a Pro 16, or you got a Curry Cup now. So for example, if the Sharks don't win the Curry Cup and the Sharks don't do well in the Pro 16, that's like 5 tournaments that they've gone through since the takeover and not gotten silverware. And how quickly do you want? What's the expectation from MVM Holdings? What's the expectation from the conglomerate to be, if you want to market this side as one of the biggest rugby sides in the world, and you want to bring all these fans from internationally, and you want to make the Sharks this massive international brand? What's the expectation? When do you need to start winning trophies? Because we've seen that in the past that success breeds success. So you've got the money, you've got really good players. But unless you've got that silverware, you know, who's going to come back? Whereas for example, if you've got the Sharks and they're playing European Champions Cup and they're getting to semi-finals, even getting to finals. I mean, for example, if you had the Sharks become European champions, which sounds like a really strange thing given the fact that they're from South Africa, so they probably have to rename the tournament. That's a side that, you know, maybe Cheslin Colby comes back to. That's a side that you can get some of the best players in the country with more than just sort of the person endorsement deals and stuff like that. So that's why I think it's quite interesting that they've backed Sean Everett so much, despite maybe, I mean, slightly underperforming. I think that they've got a squad that rivals the Bulls on paper, but is he the right person to get them all the way? Sean Farrell says it's that way with Leinster in the Pro 14. They can win with a B team some of the matches. I do get fed up with watching my team not get challenged in the league. It's not helping us out, and that's the problem, because the problem is you have Pro 14 and then you'll go to the Champions Cup or the Challenge Cup and you're suddenly playing against sides who are playing against much better opposition week in, week out, and they're ready for that level, where it's quite difficult sometimes when you're playing at a low level to be able to bring yourself up and be able to take yourself up to the next level when you suddenly go onto the European stage. We see it quite often in like football in the Champions League, how suddenly you play against these small teams who you don't back or whatever, and you can get done by. And you can see how sometimes not being able to play at a high level, like teams like, for example, like a PSG who dominate the league Ligue 1 before this last season, they've always struggled to be able to sort of replicate that on the highest level. And it comes to not being able to play at a consistent high level week in, week out, which is why the success in like Premier League teams and the Liga teams have been so much better. So yeah, Sean O'Farrell saying, I do think they must see a lot of young players coming through in the Sharks. They've signed everybody under the sun. I mean, just this week, they've brought back Lionel Cronje, Craig Wright, Cameron Wright, Kutum Kuna's come back, as well as, I'm missing somebody as well. But they brought a couple of players back, and yet they've got a lot of youngsters. I mean, you can understand why Curran Bosch has been rumored to leave when you think that they've just signed. They brought in a Zimbabwean fly half. Apparently, Indy Radebe is playing in Natal. You've got Buta Chamberlain. You've got Manny Liebach. So it's just weird. In certain positions, it's almost like hoarding. I mean, look at the scrum halves: Jaden Henderson, Grant Williams, Cameron Wright, Snell Nahamba. Why do you need all four of the scrum halves? It doesn't make much sense to me. Whereas maybe a position like inside centre after Marius Lowe, you got Marius Lowe and Jeremy Ward. Good players, but hardly set in the world alike compared to having, as I said, the depth at scrum half, where you've got Grant Williams and Jaden Hendrickson who seem to have the run on Sinele Nahamba at the moment, and yet Nahamba's in the Springbok squad. It's just weird how certain positions the Sharks just keep adding, and yet other positions it's like the Bulls and loose forwards. They've got loose forwards coming out of their ears. But maybe a position like inside centre after Corner Hendricks, who is it? There isn't one really. It'll be Clinton Swart, but it's not quite the same sort of as when you've got Moscotier, Marco Verstappen, Dwayne Vermeulen, and yet you still got Arno Buerta, you still got Nizam Carr, you still got Albert Lowe. So it's a bit odd for me that the Sharks' recruitment policy has been a bit strange. In terms of the Bongi Manambi situation, so it's actually becoming quite interesting. So Bongi Manambi was announced on Monday. The Sharks announced that he was coming from the Stormers. And the Stormers were quite taken aback, because I don't think it had been agreed that he was supposed to be announced on Monday. So they weren't particularly happy when it happened. And they said so much on Twitter. They said, you guys got a bit ahead of yourselves. He'll still be with us until November. And the Sharks had a bit of that back and forth. But John Dobson, I think, is quite irritated and quite frustrated at, first of all, the way that they came out. But the fact that he's actually left, because he said that they spoke to Bongi in March. They had a camp and stuff like that. He said he's very happy in Cape Town. He's very happy with the Storm and stuff like that. And yet now, 2 months later, he's on the road. So John Dobson said it's for personal reasons that he can't get into. But I don't know what that means. It's quite a strange situation. The fact that when you say things like personal situation that I can't go into. But yeah, it looks like the Stormers are not happy with what's happened. Thankfully, it looks like he'll be playing with the Springboks for most of that time anyway, because I think the Springboks play pretty much non-stop until the end of September, and then they've got the outgoing tour in November. So Bongi Manambi will probably play like another maybe 4 or 5 matches for the Stormers at a push. So I don't think that that's going to be too much of an issue, because I don't think he'll have too many times back in that jersey. But you can see that they're not very happy with it. And I think it's quite a slap in the face that Siya Kolisi and now Bongi Manambi, 2 Springbok winners, the pride and joy Stormers Rugby, have gone and jumped ship and they're going to the Sharks. So it's a tough time for the Stormers, and on the back of that, Edwin van der Merwe, John Dobson has said that the Lions have offered him a contract which he will accept. So he confirmed that Edwin van der Merwe is on his way to Johannesburg, but there does seem to be ulterior motives to Edwin van der Merwe's move, because John Dobson confirmed that he wants to secure a move to Europe, and so he's saying that in order to do that, in order to be able to get a visa, you need to play 74% of the games in the Pro 16 or Pro 14. That's why you saw all those Cheetahs players going overseas after that first season. So I think from the sounds of it, Edwin van der Merwe didn't back himself to be able to. There wasn't an assurance he's going to be able to get 74% of the games he needed in a Stormers shirt to be able to secure that move overseas into Europe. And that's why he's moved to the Lions, because he reckons he can get a lot more game time. Which, I can back, given the way he's playing at the moment, he'd walk into the Lions side. But Rasmus Kleiner and Kortels Kasama are not bad players. And you still got Steven Pienaar coming back from injury. He was doing a really good job for the Lions. So it's an interesting move for him, and I hope it works out for him. I'd be interested to see if maybe they start looking at him at fullback. And especially with Tiaan Swanepoel injured, Gianni Lombard injured, so maybe they're thinking that Edwin van der Merwe could be covering fullback there, which I think would be quite a good move to actually put him at fullback. Bit of a chasing Colby sort of mold. Not just because of the scrum cup, because he's got a very good step and he likes to sort of counter-attack. But that's quite an interesting one. And for the Lions, it's a bit of a strange deal. Imagine signing someone who said, I'm coming to you so I can go to Europe. You are my ticket to Europe. You are my stepping stone club. Or my stepping stone franchise, my stepping stone union. It's quite a strange sort of situation. When someone's saying to you, I want to come play for you, but just understand, I'm not here for long. I'm here to get my 74% and then I'm off. So, for me, I find that difficult as a coach to be able to back somebody like that ahead of somebody who will commit to the union, or will be there for years. Nice youngster who's going to be there for 3-4 years, can play a big role, you can grow as part of the team and stuff like that. As opposed to someone who's going to jump, we know is going to jump ship quite quickly. So that must be quite an interesting situation, quite a difficult one to try and manage from the Lions. But if he wants out, he wants out. I suppose you can't really do much about it. But some positive news is that Warwick Gelant could yet play against the British and Irish Lions. It won't be for the Springboks, but it looks like he might be able to recover in time to be fit to play against the Lions for the Stormers. The nice thing for him is that the Stormers is the final game for the British and Irish Lions. It's scheduled, the Stormers versus the Lions will take place on the 17th of July. So it has given Gelant literally as much time as possible, except for playing the Springboks, to try and play the British and Irish Lions. So, fingers crossed that he does make it, because he's such a great player. And to miss an opportunity like this is heartbreaking. Like something like Sekou Noche, who was, you can see so dead set on playing against the Lions, was putting in shifts week in, week out, and then gets that injury and now can't even be considered. You look at how devastating it was when Carl Sinclair was left out. It's such a special tour. And even though without fans stuff like that, it's still a very special tour to be part of. So I'm really hoping that Warwick Gelant can come over that injury and be part of it. Also, I'd like to see him playing back at his best for Stormers, because I think that he should be the second choice Springbok fullback. Apelele Fassi has been fantastic, and I really do like Apelele Fassi, but I think that Warwick Gelant, before he got injured, was playing the exact sort of rugby that we would want to see from a Billy LaRue replacement. Counter-attacking, reading the game, nice kicking game. He is such an exciting player when he's on song. And he's still got years ahead of him. So look, that's the one thing the Stormers can be proud of, the fact that they've managed to wrap up David Williamson and Warwick Gelant. The question is, when Warwick Gelant comes back, what happens to David Williamson? Are they shifting him back to fly half? Are they trying him an inside centre? They've got two inside centres in Ricky Pretorius and Dan du Plessis. They're both inside centres by trade. So it's interesting times in the Stormers in terms of how they're going to be able to sort of juggle the talent they have. Do they play David Williamson at fullback, Warwick Gelant on the wing? It's not really as effective. It's a bit of a waste. So, it's a nice problem to have, that sort of situation, but it will be a bit of a problem for the Stormers in the coming months. And then finally, the England squad was announced. I think it was yesterday. And to be honest, I don't know a lot of the squad. I don't watch as much Premiership rugby as I'd like to. It's difficult to try and keep up with all the different rugby and all the different sport and stuff like that. But this is what the England squad looks like. It's quite a young squad. Hang on, that's the under 20 squad, so of course it's going to be very young. Where's my normal England squad? I've lost it. And Eddie Jones have named quite a few uncapped players. Where's it gone? No, I can't find it. No, that's a bit of a disaster. Here we go. I don't have a graphic, unfortunately, so I'll just read it out as soon as it loads. You're even going to load. Alright, so Eddie Jones has selected the following training squad. So it is Jamie Blamire, Callum Chick, Trevor Davison, Charlie Ewells, Elias Genge, Joe Hayes, Paul Hill, Ted Hill, Lewis Ludlam, Lewis Ludlow, George Martin, Chunyamanga, Beno Obano, Miles Reed, Sean Robertson, Jack Singleton, Sam Underhill, good to see him back, Harry Wells, Tom Willis, and then the backs are Josh Bassett, Joe Kukanasiga, Tom de Glanville, Fraser Dingwall, Ollie Hassel-Collins, Dan Kelly, Ollie Lawrence, Alex Mitchell, Max Ojomo, Tom Parton, Adam Radwin, Dan Robson, Ben Spencer, Freddie Stewart, and Jacob Umaga. So, I mean, in terms of uncapped players, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 uncapped players. 21 uncapped players, in fact, are made available there. Obviously, there are a couple of players who are still part of the club scene and stuff like that. So Eddie Jones said that they will link up with the squad when available. But I mean, it's a nice opportunity for England for Eddie Jones to start bringing in some of these youngsters, start bringing in some of these uncapped players, and getting them used to the systems. You know, sort of seeing how they fare, start being able to sort of introduce them to how rugby works. We talk about the Springbok alignment camps, and that's what they kind of fill a similar role. It's all about getting these players in and saying, this is how we play, this is how we do, this is what your role will be, this is the pattern of play. Understand the system so that even though they might not get capped at the moment, they might not get game time, they are players for the future. When they do, they can kind of slot in much easier than it would have been if they haven't been part of the setup itself. And that pretty much brings it up to the news to an end. So we had quite a hectic start to the week and then kind of sort of fizzled off. Unfortunately, in terms of rugby to look forward to this weekend, one less game, as I said, the Stormers versus Lions game. But tomorrow, later tonight, we've got Leinster versus Dragons. It's kicking off in about 10 minutes, I think it is. And then tomorrow in the Super Rugby Trans-Tasman, we've got Rebels versus Crusaders, Blues versus the Western Force, and Waratahs versus the Chiefs. Sharks versus the Bulls tomorrow, South African time, 6:15. Category Zebra 11:54 Munster. Well, Munster not playing for anything at the moment, but I'll tell you what, that's a nice statement there. I'm probably going to pick that up when I'm finished here. We've also got some Premiership Rugby this weekend. We've got Bristol versus London Irish, Exeter versus Sale Sharks, Harlequins, Newcastle Falcons, Worcester Warriors, Leicester, Bath, Northampton Saints, Wasps taking on Leicester. Top 14 action. We've got Racing Stade Francais, and we've got Bordeaux versus Clermont. And on Sunday, we've got the Scarlets versus Edinburgh. That will be the weekend's action. So if you want to watch any sort of rugby, those are the games up there. Category saying Benson will have to play the game of their lives. I think they will do. I think they're going to be playing against the Bulls. We talked about that earlier. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have time for today. So I will see everybody on Sunday for a Rainbow Cup South Africa review. Tomorrow, Lukanya will be giving you a review, so don't stress. We will have that Sharks versus Bulls game covered for you, but we will unfortunately not be live. We will be live next weekend. We've got 4 watch-alongs lined up. We've got one on Friday night, and we're going to be live pretty much just for the entire afternoon and Saturday. We've got 2 Currie Cup games, followed by the Rainbow Cup final. And the week after that, we're into the Lions series. Well, the first Lions match before they then come down. So it's really, really exciting times. You're going to have lots of rugby coming up. So please make sure you smash a like, subscribe to the channel. You can become a member if you want. Get yourself a little badge next to your name. And you can click the join button over there to do that as well. Thank you very much for joining me. I'll see you guys on Sunday. Have a fantastic weekend. Watch lots of rugby. Enjoy it. For those in South Africa, keep warm. For those in Europe, enjoy the warm weather. And I'll chat to you guys very, very soon.